The fastest way to make someone fall in love with you is to stop thinking about how to make them fall in love with you. The moment you become obsessed with the outcome, you begin performing. You choose words because you want approval. You change your behavior because you fear rejection, and you start measuring every interaction by whether the other person seems impressed. This desperation is felt long before it is spoken. Attraction becomes weaker when someone senses that you are trying to obtain something from them. The deeper path is different. Create a connection in which the other person feels genuinely understood, appreciated, and free to reveal who they are. People are surrounded by noise. Everyone wants attention. Everyone wants to be heard. Few people know how to truly listen. This is why focused attention is so powerful. When you speak with someone, do not merely wait for your opportunity to respond. Study the meaning behind their words. Notice what excites them, what makes them hesitate, what subjects cause their voice to change. Listen not only to what they say, but to what they are trying to express. When someone realizes that you remember the small things they once mentioned, they experience something unusual. They feel significant in your presence. And this feeling matters more than any impressive story you could tell about yourself. Most people try to create attraction by displaying their achievements. They talk about their intelligence, their ambitions, their success, their social status. They believe attraction is created by proving that they are valuable. But value becomes far more compelling when it is experienced rather than announced. Instead of constantly telling someone what makes you special, create an interaction in which they naturally discover it. Let your confidence appear through your calmness. Let your intelligence appear through thoughtful questions. Let your character appear through consistency. Never force the other person to admire you. Give them the opportunity to discover reasons to admire you. There is also a deeper psychological principle at work. People become emotionally attached to experiences, not merely to facts. They remember how someone made them feel during an important conversation. They remember the person who listened when everyone else was distracted. They remember the person who made them laugh when they were under pressure. They remember the person who encouraged a dream they had almost stopped believing in. These experiences become associated with your presence, and slowly, without force, your presence acquires emotional meaning. This is why you should never treat conversation as an interview or a performance. Ask questions that open doors rather than questions that simply collect information. Instead of asking what someone does, discover what they care about. Instead of asking what they achieved, ask what the achievement meant to them. Instead of immediately offering solutions to their problems, sometimes simply give them the rare experience of being understood without judgment. But there is a danger here. In your attempt to create emotional connection, do not lose yourself. Attraction becomes unhealthy when one person begins reshaping their entire personality to satisfy another. If you abandon your ambitions, friendships, standards, and identity just to maintain someone's attention, you may gain temporary approval while losing the qualities that made you attractive in the first place. You must remain a complete person, have your own direction, have interests that exist independently of the relationship, build a life that does not collapse when someone leaves it. There is a strange power in being deeply interested in someone while remaining grounded in yourself. You are saying, without saying it, I enjoy your presence, but I do not need to become someone else to keep it. That combination of warmth and independence creates genuine attraction. Do not rush intimacy either. There is a temptation, especially when chemistry appears quickly, to reveal everything immediately. You tell them your entire history, expose every insecurity, and demand certainty before trust has had time to develop. But meaningful connection needs layers. Let discovery happen naturally. Reveal yourself gradually as trust develops. Give the relationship room to breathe. The goal is not to create artificial mystery. It is to allow two people to discover each other, rather than consuming the entire story in a single conversation, and pay attention to reciprocity. If you are always initiating, always listening, always giving, while the other person contributes almost nothing, you are not building love. You are building an imbalance. Genuine attraction moves in both directions. They become curious about you. They remember your stories. They make an effort. They seek your company. They create opportunities to continue the connection. When these signals appear, do not become frantic. Let the connection develop at its own pace. The most powerful thing you can offer another person is not obsession. It is presence. Be the person who can sit across from them and make them feel that they do not have to perform. Be curious without being invasive. Be confident without becoming arrogant. Be interested without becoming dependent. Give attention without demanding it back immediately, because the deepest attraction begins when someone does not simply enjoy your attention. They enjoy who they become when they are around you. Attraction grows in the space between what is known and what is still waiting to be discovered. When someone meets you, they do not need your entire story immediately. They need enough of you to become curious about the rest. Most people make the mistake of revealing everything too quickly. They explain their history, announce their feelings, describe their plans, and constantly update the other person about what they are thinking. They believe transparency will accelerate intimacy, but often it removes the natural process of discovery. When nothing remains to discover, curiosity has nowhere to go. This does not mean you should play games, deliberately disappear, or pretend to be mysterious. Artificial mystery is easy to recognize, and manipulation eventually destroys trust. Real intrigue comes from having depth. You have a life that exists beyond the person you are attracted to. You have ambitions that occupy your attention, interests that excite you, principles that guide you, and experiences that have shaped you. You do not reveal all of these things at once because you are hiding them. You simply allow another person to discover them over time. Think about the difference between someone who is desperate to be noticed and someone who is comfortable in their own world. The first person constantly seeks attention. They send messages simply to keep themselves present. They feel anxious when there is silence. They reveal too much because they fear the other person will lose interest. The second person can enjoy connection without becoming dependent on it. They can be deeply interested while still maintaining their own direction. That independence creates a quiet form of attraction because it communicates that their life has value with or without anyone else's approval. There is something psychologically compelling about a person who cannot be completely understood after one conversation, not because they are confusing, but because they contain layers. Perhaps you discover their ambition first, then their humor, then their philosophy, then their vulnerability. Each layer gives the other person another reason to remain curious. This gradual discovery creates anticipation. And anticipation is one of the emotional ingredients of attraction. But remember, mystery without warmth becomes distance. If you constantly withdraw, refuse to communicate, or deliberately create uncertainty, you may produce anxiety rather than affection. Healthy attraction requires a balance. Give attention when you are together. Be genuinely engaged. Show interest. Then return to your own life when the interaction ends. You do not need to manufacture absence. You simply do not abandon yourself for the sake of constant contact. This balance becomes especially important in communication. You do not need to respond instantly to every message simply to prove interest. At the same time, you should not intentionally delay responses as a psychological tactic. Respond when you genuinely have the time and attention to engage. When you are present, be present. When you are busy, continue living your life. The goal is not to manipulate their perception of your availability. The goal is to have a life that naturally prevents you from becoming permanently available. Your conversations should also contain something beyond routine information. Talk about ideas, dreams, experiences, fears, ambitions, and the strange questions people rarely discuss. Give the other person a chance to see different sides of you. Humor can create lightness. Intellectual curiosity can create fascination. Vulnerability, when appropriate and earned, can create trust. The combination makes you memorable because the interaction becomes richer than ordinary conversation. There is another important principle. Never pretend to be someone you are not simply because you think a particular personality will make you more attractive. If you become an artificial version of yourself, eventually the performance becomes exhausting. Worse, if the relationship develops, the other person may discover that the person they were attracted to was partly an illusion. Real intrigue comes from becoming more fully yourself, not from constructing a character. Your goal should be to become more interesting through living, not through acting. Travel when you can, learn, build skills, pursue meaningful goals, develop opinions, read, create, experience failure and recover from it, cultivate friendships and passions. A person with a rich inner and outer life does not need to manufacture mystery because mystery naturally exists within them. There are experiences to share, perspectives to explore, and stories that cannot be told in a single evening. And when you reveal something personal, let it have meaning. Do not confess every insecurity simply to create artificial closeness. Share something because it genuinely belongs in the conversation. Let vulnerability emerge from trust rather than strategy. The right person will appreciate authenticity far more than carefully calculated emotional exposure. Eventually, the other person should feel that there is always something more to discover, not because you are hiding, but because you are growing. Your life should continue moving. Your interests should evolve. Your ambitions should expand. The person who attracted them yesterday should still be recognizable tomorrow, but not completely unchanged. That is the kind of mystery that lasts. Not secrecy, but depth. Not manipulation, but independence. Not calculated absence, but a life rich enough that another person cannot understand it all at once. And when curiosity is allowed to grow naturally, attraction has room to become something deeper than fascination. It can become genuine emotional connection. One of the most powerful ways to deepen attraction is to understand that people are often drawn not only to who you are, but to how they feel when they are around you. This does not mean pretending to be someone you are not or manufacturing emotions through psychological tricks. It means learning how to create interactions that feel alive, memorable, and emotionally meaningful. When someone consistently associates your presence with confidence, laughter, curiosity, inspiration, and genuine connection, your presence begins to occupy a different place in their mind. Most people approach attraction as if it were a competition. They want to be the most impressive person in the room. They tell stories designed to make themselves look successful. They try to appear intelligent, mysterious, wealthy, confident, or desirable. But the person trying hardest to impress often becomes the least memorable. Why? Because everyone is focused on themselves. Everyone wants to be admired. Very few people know how to create an experience in which another person feels more alive, more confident, or more understood. This is where your real advantage begins. Instead of constantly asking, how can I make them impressed by me? Ask yourself, how can I make this interaction meaningful? That question changes your behavior completely. You become more curious. You stop forcing conversation. You begin noticing what makes the other person light up. You discover their interests, their ambitions, their strange ideas, their sense of humor. You create room for them to express themselves instead of competing for attention. Imagine meeting someone who allows you to talk about something you are passionate about without making you feel foolish for caring so deeply. You leave that conversation feeling energized. You may not even realize why you enjoyed it so much, but your mind remembers the experience. That person becomes associated with a particular emotional state. And when you think about them later, you are not simply remembering their face or their words. You are remembering how you felt. That is the psychological foundation of emotional attraction. You can create this through genuine curiosity. Ask questions that go beyond surface level facts. Instead of asking only what someone does, ask what they would do if they had unlimited freedom. Instead of asking only where they have traveled, ask which place changed the way they see life. Instead of asking only about their goals, ask why those goals matter to them. Questions like these invite stories, emotions, memories, and imagination. Suddenly, the conversation becomes more than an exchange of information. It becomes an experience. But you must also contribute something of your own. Emotional connection cannot be built by turning yourself into an audience. Share your perspective. Tell stories that reveal your character. Make them laugh. Challenge an idea respectfully. Talk about something you genuinely care about. Let them see your enthusiasm. A person who is passionate about something becomes more attractive because passion signals that there is a life happening inside them. This is why you should develop interests that have nothing to do with romance. Build something, learn something difficult, pursue a goal, read deeply, create, exercise your mind, develop a craft, explore the world. When you have genuine experiences, you have something authentic to bring into conversation. You do not need to manufacture charisma because your life provides material for it. There is also power in emotional contrast. A conversation does not have to remain serious or romantic from beginning to end. Sometimes depth creates connection. Sometimes humor creates relief. Sometimes you discuss an ambitious dream, then laugh about something completely ridiculous. Sometimes you challenge each other intellectually, then become playful. These shifts create emotional movement, and emotional movement makes interactions memorable. But do not confuse emotional intensity with love. Intense experiences can create excitement, but healthy attraction also needs trust, respect, and consistency. You should never deliberately provoke jealousy, insecurity, fear, or emotional dependence to make someone attached to you. Those tactics may create instability, but instability is not the same thing as intimacy. If you want something that can actually become love, create experiences that make both people feel more authentic rather than less secure. And remember that attraction becomes stronger when you remain grounded. You should not become responsible for another person's happiness. You are not there to entertain them constantly or rescue them from every difficult emotion. You are simply bringing your own energy, personality, curiosity, and warmth into the connection. Let them meet you there. Let them contribute. Let them surprise you. The most memorable people are rarely those who try desperately to become unforgettable. They were simply present enough to create moments that mattered. They listened when listening mattered. They laughed when laughter was needed. They shared something meaningful when the moment called for depth. They had enough confidence to be playful and enough emotional intelligence to know when to be serious. So stop trying to manufacture attraction through performance. Build a life that gives you genuine energy. Bring that energy into your interactions and learn to make people feel seen, inspired, relaxed, and alive in your presence. Because when someone begins to associate your presence with the best version of how they feel, attraction no longer needs to be forced. It begins to grow naturally. Attention is powerful, but constant attention is rarely valuable. When you give someone every minute of your day, every thought in your mind, and an immediate response to every message, you may believe you are demonstrating affection, but often you are demonstrating something else, that your entire emotional world is beginning to revolve around them. Attraction needs connection, but it also needs space. Without space, there is no anticipation, no opportunity to miss someone, and no room for two independent lives to gradually become connected. This is where many people make a critical mistake. The moment they become interested in someone, they begin increasing their availability. They respond instantly. They initiate every conversation. They cancel plans to make themselves free. They constantly check whether the other person is still interested. Their attention becomes continuous, and what was initially exciting begins to feel ordinary. Not because attention is bad, but because anything given without limits eventually loses its distinctiveness. Think about music. A song played once can leave a powerful impression. Played repeatedly without interruption, it becomes background noise. Human attention can work in a similar way. Presence becomes meaningful partly because it has boundaries. When you are fully engaged with someone while you are together, your attention feels valuable. When you are apart, you return to your own life. That separation creates natural anticipation, but understand the difference between healthy space and calculated manipulation. You should never disappear simply to make someone anxious. You should not intentionally ignore messages, manufacture jealousy, or pretend to be unavailable when you are actually waiting for their reaction. Those tactics may create temporary uncertainty, but they do not build trust. Real attraction is stronger when your space is genuine. Have a life that naturally requires your attention. Work toward your goals, spend time with friends, develop your interests, exercise, read, create, travel when possible, learn new skills. Give yourself periods where you are not thinking about romance at all. When you return to the person you like, you bring new experiences and energy with you. You are not sitting around waiting for them to provide meaning to your day. This independence creates an important psychological difference. You are no longer communicating, "I need your attention to feel good." You are communicating, through your behavior, I enjoy your attention, but I already have a meaningful life. That distinction can transform the entire dynamic. There is also a deeper benefit. Space allows both people to discover what they actually feel. If you are constantly together, emotions can become confused with habit. If you are constantly communicating, you may mistake frequency for intimacy. But when there is healthy distance, each person has time to reflect. You may find yourself thinking about them because you genuinely miss their presence, rather than because you have been conditioned to check your phone every few minutes. This is why you should not panic when communication slows down naturally. A quiet afternoon does not automatically mean attraction has disappeared. Someone being busy does not automatically mean rejection. If you react to every gap with anxiety, you create pressure, and pressure can suffocate connection. Instead, learn to tolerate uncertainty. You do not need to know exactly what someone is thinking every hour. You do not need constant reassurance. You do not need to turn every changing tone into a crisis. Emotional stability makes you more capable of building a healthy relationship because you are responding to reality rather than to fear. At the same time, do not use independence as an excuse for emotional neglect. If someone matters to you, show it. Give them genuine attention. Make plans. Follow through. Communicate clearly. When you are together, do not stare at your phone while pretending to listen. Give them your full presence. The power of space depends on the quality of your presence when you return. This creates a rhythm: connection, separation, anticipation, reunion. Each stage has its own emotional value. You share an experience, return to your individual lives, think about what happened, and eventually reconnect with something new to discuss. The relationship breathes rather than suffocates. And there is another important principle: never abandon your standards simply because you fear losing someone. If you cancel everything whenever they call, you teach yourself that their approval is more important than your own life. If you constantly accept behavior that makes you uncomfortable because you are afraid they might leave, you create dependence rather than love. Love should expand your life, not replace it. The person you are attracted to should become part of your world, not the entire world. Keep your friendships, keep your ambitions, keep your identity. Continue becoming someone you respect. When two complete people come together, attraction has room to deepen without either person disappearing into the other. So give attention generously when it is genuine, but never give away your entire existence in exchange for affection. Let there be moments when you are together and moments when you are apart. Let anticipation develop naturally. Let curiosity remain alive. Let each person continue growing independently, because the goal is not to make someone chase you through absence. It is to build a connection strong enough that both people genuinely look forward to coming back to each other. There is a point where confidence stops being something you demonstrate and becomes something you embody. You no longer need to convince someone that you are valuable, because your standards, your actions, and the way you carry yourself communicate it before you say a word. This matters deeply in attraction because people are drawn toward individuals who possess a stable sense of self. Not perfection, not arrogance, not superiority, stability. Someone who knows who they are, what they want, and what they will not compromise becomes difficult to overlook. When you like someone deeply, the temptation is to change yourself to become what you think they want. You start studying their preferences, adjusting your personality, agreeing with every opinion, and hiding anything that might create disagreement. You tell yourself that you are being flexible, but slowly you are becoming less authentic. And there is a paradox here. The more desperately you try to become exactly what someone wants, the less attractive you become. Why? Because attraction needs something real to respond to. If there is no distinct personality, no independent judgment, no personal direction, there is nothing substantial to connect with. Your standards are part of your attractiveness. This does not mean creating an artificial list of demands or treating people as though they must earn the privilege of speaking to you. It means knowing what kind of behavior aligns with your values. You can be compassionate without accepting disrespect. You can be interested without abandoning your boundaries. You can be romantic without becoming dependent. You can care deeply while still remembering that your identity existed before this person entered your life. That balance is rare. Most people swing between two extremes. On one side is desperation, excessive attention, constant reassurance, jealousy, and the fear of losing someone. On the other is arrogance, emotional coldness, superiority, games, and deliberate indifference. Neither creates healthy attraction. The stronger position exists between them. You are warm but not needy. You are confident but not arrogant. You are interested but not obsessed. You are open but not without boundaries. This is where self-respect becomes attractive. Imagine someone who changes their entire schedule every time you ask for their attention. At first, it may feel flattering, but eventually, you realize they have no boundaries around their own life. Now imagine someone who genuinely enjoys spending time with you, but also has commitments, ambitions, friendships, and personal goals. They make time for you because they choose to, not because they have nothing else. Their attention carries more weight because it is intentional. That is the difference between availability and generosity. Availability says, I am always here because I have nothing more important to do. Generosity says, I have a life, but I choose to share part of it with you. The second communicates far greater value, but your standards must also apply to how you treat the other person. If you expect respect, give respect. If you want honesty, practice honesty. If you want someone to communicate clearly yourself. Confidence without character becomes arrogance. Standards without empathy become control. The goal is not to dominate another person. It is to create a relationship where both people can remain strong individuals while choosing each other freely. There will be moments when you disagree. Do not fear them. A person who constantly agrees with you may feel comfortable, but comfort alone does not create depth. Healthy disagreement can reveal character. If you can express your opinion without insulting someone, listen without becoming defensive, and maintain your position without needing to win, you demonstrate emotional maturity. You show that your confidence does not depend on everyone agreeing with you, and never confuse rejection with a verdict on your worth. Someone may not choose you. Their feelings may not develop. Their priorities may be different. Their timing may be wrong. None of this means you must immediately become someone else. If you respond to rejection by desperately trying to prove your value, you hand control of your identity to another person's decision. The person who respects themselves can accept an uncomfortable truth. Not everyone will be attracted to them, and that is normal. You do not need universal approval. You need authenticity and reciprocity. When someone appreciates your character, respects your boundaries, shares your values, and willingly invests in the connection, attraction has a foundation. When those things are absent, no psychological technique can create something healthy in their place. This is why your personal growth matters so much. Become disciplined because you respect your future. Build your career because you have ambitions. Take care of your body because you value your life. Develop your mind because you want to understand more. Build friendships because you need a world larger than romance. Become emotionally stable because you refuse to let another person's attention determine your mood. Then something changes. You stop approaching love as a transaction. You no longer think, if I become impressive enough, they will choose me. Instead, you think, I will become the strongest, healthiest, most authentic version of myself, and I will allow the right connection to recognize that. That mindset creates a different kind of confidence. You can pursue someone without chasing them. You can express your feelings without surrendering your dignity. You can walk toward love without abandoning yourself. And that is the kind of confidence that does not need to announce itself. It is felt. The final lesson is the one most people resist because it removes the illusion of control. You cannot force another human being to love you. You cannot manipulate the right combination of words, silence, attention, mystery, or confidence and guarantee that someone will give you their heart. You can create the conditions in which attraction has room to grow, but love remains a choice made by two people. And once you understand this, you stop chasing control and start developing something far more powerful: the ability to recognize and cultivate genuine reciprocity. Look at how desperation changes people. When someone becomes afraid of losing another person, they begin trying to control the outcome. They send more messages, seek constant reassurance, analyze every word, and become obsessed with small changes in behavior. They are no longer experiencing the connection. They are monitoring it. Every interaction becomes a test. Every silence becomes a threat. Every delay becomes evidence. And slowly, the very anxiety they are trying to hide begins to shape the relationship. The opposite approach is emotional steadiness. You can want someone deeply without making their response the measure of your worth. You can express interest without demanding an immediate answer. You can make an effort without carrying the entire relationship on your shoulders. You can give someone space without assuming that space means rejection. This is not emotional detachment. It is emotional maturity. Pay attention to reciprocity. Does the other person initiate conversations sometimes? Do they remember things you tell them? Do they make an effort to see you? Do they ask questions about your life? Do they become curious about your thoughts, ambitions, and experiences? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they make room for you in their world? These behaviors tell you far more than dramatic declarations ever could. When interest is mutual, you should not need to constantly convince someone to remain interested. There may be uncertainty, hesitation, or different speeds of emotional development, but there is movement from both sides. You are not dragging the relationship forward alone. They are walking toward you as you walk toward them. This is where many people misunderstand the psychology of attraction. They think the goal is to become so desirable that another person becomes unable to resist them. But that mindset turns love into conquest. The deeper goal is to become someone whose presence creates genuine desire for connection while preserving the freedom of both people to choose. There is immense strength in allowing someone to choose you. If someone wants to know you, let them. If they want to spend time with you, receive it. If they reveal something personal, meet their vulnerability with respect. If they show affection, respond authentically. But do not manufacture emotional dependence. Do not exploit insecurities. Do not use jealousy to create competition. Do not intentionally disappear to create panic. Those tactics may produce reactions, but a reaction is not love. Real attraction becomes stronger when both people feel free rather than trapped. This is why your own life must remain meaningful. If the relationship becomes your only source of excitement, validation, or identity, you place an impossible burden on another person. They become responsible for your happiness, and you become terrified of losing them. But when your life already contains purpose, friendships, ambition, creativity, and personal growth, love becomes an addition rather than a rescue. Then you can say something powerful through your behavior. I choose you because I value you, not because I cannot exist without you. That distinction changes everything. It also changes how you respond when someone does not reciprocate. Instead of trying harder to persuade them, you accept reality. You may feel disappointment. You may grieve the possibility you imagined. But you do not destroy your dignity trying to force an outcome that does not exist. You step back, learn, and continue your life. Sometimes the most attractive response to rejection is not another attempt. It is acceptance, because there is something deeply compelling about a person who can love without possessing, someone who can care without controlling, someone who can desire another person while respecting their freedom. That person is emotionally strong because their affection does not come with a demand for ownership. And when love does become mutual, do not stop practicing the principles that created the attraction. Continue listening, continue growing, continue maintaining your individuality, continue creating meaningful experiences, continue giving each other space, continue respecting boundaries. Attraction is not a door you unlock once and then forget. It is something that evolves as two people continue discovering each other. The mystery changes, but it does not disappear. At first, you discover someone's interests and dreams. Later, you discover how they handle pressure, how they respond to success, how they change over time. A long-term relationship can remain fascinating when both people continue growing rather than becoming fixed versions of themselves. So the fastest way to make someone fall in love with you is not to master a trick. It is to become deeply present, emotionally intelligent, independent, confident, and authentic, and then allow another person the freedom to respond to that reality. Do not chase obsession. Create connection. Do not demand love. Become worthy of it. Do not manipulate someone's emotions. Build experiences that both of you genuinely value. And above all, never forget that the greatest form of attraction is not making someone unable to leave. It is becoming someone they freely choose to stay with.